Good morning, and my name is Harish Dabasia. We are criticizing Western models, but I lived in London for 30 years before. I was born in India, brought up in Kenya, Nairobi, and lived in London, and I'm back in Africa. And the African business model has a huge infant mortality rate. I'm using the word infant mortality because I don't have any other word to describe it. Businesses start and die very quickly in Africa. The statistics are alarming. 70% die in the first 6 months, 90% in the first year. That percentage is very high, and it costs the society a lot of inputs and resources. The people that funded that entrepreneur, their parents, their investors, banks that they borrowed from, their failure rate is so high that your lending rates as a result are so high. In UK, I can borrow money at 2-3% per annum.
2%.
Yes. And if the base rate in London, Bank of England is 2%, my bank will not charge me more than 2.5%. The variation is very small. Over here, the base rate in Bank of Rwanda is maybe 7-8%. But if you go to borrow any money from anywhere, from any capital market, it will be around 15 to 20%, and even that is not available to most entrepreneurs, most micro entrepreneurs. And what I saw I recently went to Uganda, and I saw that the hustle and bustle, the informal economy is booming. Everybody is busy, selling stuff, haggling, doing things, and it is true what you mentioned, that the Silicon Valley systems don't work for Africa. And we've seen that also in places like China and India. We also tried to emulate the Western models, but then realized the failure rates were too high, and we had to adjust ourselves. We had to go back to our roots of using mentorship. Somebody who has been 2 or 3 steps ahead of you. Your mentor doesn't have to be brilliant, superb. He just needs to be gone through the road a few steps ahead of you to be able to say, okay, let's say somebody starts a spectacle business. He's become an optometrist, and he will borrow money from his parents, he will borrow money from his savings, he'll borrow money from his friends and family. He'll start a shop. In the early days, he will have a lot of momentum from the friends and family and whatever. 6 months down the line, new customers will dry out, sales will dry out. He'll have litigation issues, he'll have customer issues, he'll have other issues. 5 or 6 issues all fall onto him, on his lap, all at one time. And because he doesn't have a mentor, he puts up his hand, and all that money, all that stock goes down the drain. It's a huge price for society to pay. We need to find ways to reduce that.
Just take me through what India did in particular, because when we say that the Western business framework simply are not compatible with the realities of the African markets, and you said in India you also tried the Western tactics and they were not working, and you had to make a shift. From where you stand, what is the biggest mismatch?
If you look at the Eastern cultures, the Eastern cultures have a tradition of gurus, not only in religion but also in business. And we have family-run businesses that go generations. Like I am a 5th generation builder. My grandfather was a builder. My father, his father was a builder. My father was a builder, and I am a builder. And because it comes down generationally, there is a mentor. My father mentors me. His father mentored him, and that way, you know, the failure rates diminish. They become negligible because I don't have to go far. The mentor is in my house. Okay, it may not be the case for most of you, but there is this Western notion that I can do everything myself. I can find my way through the chaos. That has a very high failure rate, and it is costing society a lot of money. We need to reduce that. Mentorship is not just for the elite. And the mentors don't have to be brilliant. They just need to have done it longer than you. Let's say we were using the mountain climbing analogy. If you want to climb Mount Everest, somebody who has been to the base camp is more qualified to guide you to the base camp.
because they know around.
Yes.
Now, African businesses often operate in the informal sector, and I'm glad you've been to Nairobi and Kampala and you have seen how the informal sector thrives there, which the West see as a weakness anyway, because we are informal, not registered. But some argue is the adaptive strength. What's your take on that?
I agree totally with you. The formal structures in the Western or the developed markets is well and good, but for poor nations, for rising economies, you have to give people the freedom to trade with minimum governance, with minimum restrictions. That creates that momentum, that creates that learning environment where you make mistakes, you learn from them, and you improve. And the informal economy in Kampala is thriving. I was impressed with the hustle and bustle everyone was involved in. And I think that uh, is a very good sign, and it's a very good model where people can learn at a very minimal cost. You're not they're not investing a lot of money and failing fast and hard. They're using very small capital with very limited time frames. They learn, they improve, they move on to the next step.
Tell me, you've been in India, you were born in India, we see so many Indians thriving on the African market. Is it in every Indian to be a business person, to be an entrepreneur?
It is not, but Indians prefer to do business than to be employed. And it is most, and you'll see that Indians also do business, and Chinese also do business in Africa, even in Kigali. And an Indian businessman does not come to Africa, to fail. He comes here with a plan. He comes here with mentorship. If is new in the country, he will talk to the people who have been here long enough, who are in their industry, and ask them, what should I do? How should I approach my business? A methodology. Do I start small? Do I start big? How do I do? And that helps us mitigate the risk of failure. And it's not only in the Indian culture, it's also in the Chinese culture or the Japanese culture. The whole of East does not believe that I will do it myself and succeed. Yes, there are a few who will do that, but vast majority of us need somebody to guide us.
I know you love talking to people and that you see that mosque you must have interacted with so many founders. What is that difference you found between Africans starting or Rwandans who are starting and where you're coming from in India? Uh, the failure rate which you spoke about, what do you find as a motivation?
I, at Norscan, I must have spoken to around 15, 20, founders so far. I've just been here for 2 months. It's early days for me. Uh, One of the biggest mistakes I see them making is this notion that, I have a business plan and I'll make it happen. Yes, a business plan is well and good, but a business plan that is come out of your brain that doesn't have feedback from your customers or from clients is no business plan. It is bound to fail. Just because you've got an idea and you want to force it onto your clients, it's not going to happen. Your clients also need to have offered some services to your clients and got some feedback from them to be able to tailor your service to their needs. There needs to be a mechanism for you to then say, okay, I'm targeting, let's say I'm targeting agricultural experts, people who are growing spices or chilies in Rwanda. You think, the chili farmer needs this solution. You come up with an app, you come up with a website, you come up with a solution. It, it may not work in the field unless you have inputs from the farmers. What is their actual need? Understanding your customer, that needs to be priority, not getting your product or your app right.
And force it on them.
Yes.
I think what entrepreneurs are doing today is because there is a technology called ChatGPT gives you an idea. The idea sounds good to you, and so you want to execute it. And then to the people, they do not see how it is urgent for them to give out.
Yeah. Even marketing, even simple things. I came across a clearing and forwarding agent. His name is Joroge, and he introduces me like this and says, "My name is Joroge. I am a CEO of this and this company, and we are based here." Blah blah blah. I said, "Joroge, stop it. Tell me what you do, who for, and why are you different?" He had to scratch his head to give me an answer. He then said, "Okay, I can clear your containers on the port in 2 days compared to 20 days." I said, "Start with that, Joroge. People will not remember your name. They'll not remember your company's name. They'll not remember your location where you're based, but they'll remember that you can solve their problem of clearing a container at the port in 2 days and compared to 20 days. This is a small soundbite that will be more useful to him than saying, I am a CEO. I've been in business for so many years. I've done this and I've done that, and I've no, that doesn't. You need to identify a problem that your industry, your customers have, and the problem is that customers want their containers as soon as possible. You're giving them that solution, and you're starting with that. People will remember that.
It's kept to talk this morning about 70 minutes or to 9 o'clock. We're going to take a break and then come back. I'm speaking to Harish. He is so very passionate about people succeeding doing the business. He will tell us exactly what he does in Rwanda because he says it's 2 months, which is access to capital. Capital access remains a huge, huge challenge for businesses in Africa. Now, the question is how can African entrepreneurs rethink financing beyond the traditional bank loan or the Western style venture capital?
A very good question. And for every, because money is very expensive in Africa, you're talking about 15, 20%, and even that availability is limited. Even paying those prices, that you have to sweat day and night to fulfill those interest rates, it's not available to everyone. It's available. Availability is sketchy. So, for simple, I'll give you a simple example. If you are making pencils, and you don't want to be dependent on the markets, then every pencil that you make needs to have a built-in profit. So that, let's say you are saying 25% profit on every pencil. For every 4 pencils that you make, you'll be able to make one for free. that is a more sustainable model than relying on capital markets, relying on venture capital. If you build your profit into your product or your service, then you don't need any investment. Okay, I'm saying not all businesses can sustain it. Startups and other ventures need capital. Uh, as I said, interest rates are so high, then you need investment capital coming into venture capitals or other capitals. But again, they will all, you know, they will all want some measure of control. They would impose a mentor, to supervise your business or something. Or when I first started a startup in London, the funding came with a condition, and the condition was that you will have to use this business mentor to help you, in the first 6 months of your business, and that actually helped because there were many things that I was not good at. Just because you are good at, designing a software or designing a app does not make you a good marketeer, does not make you a good salesman, does not make you a good people manager. And these are all skills that you have to learn on the job. You're not going to start when you're perfect. You have to start, and be good at it, on the job. And I see a lot of youngsters say that my product needs to be perfect, my service needs to be perfect, and that they're never going to kick off, they're never going to launch, and that attitude cannot work for Africans.
You spoke about price, where an entrepreneur has to create a product and within the pricing, they have to factor in their profit.
Yes.
Africans are price sensitive. Sometimes, as businesses, we find ourselves having to devalue the product or the service because you want to have the momentum of customers walking in, and then they can become the testimony and attract other customers. Is that the right way to
It
approach
is,
things?
but I face this problem a lot. Every entrepreneur I've spoken to is very price conscious, and he says that his customers are price conscious. I don't agree with it. There is a misconception or a misguide over here. I've flown in Air Rwanda. Air Rwanda has business class, first class, and economy class. There are customers who are using first class and economy class. So there are people who are paying those premium prices. So not all customers are suited for you or your business. If you are targeting people with premium prices, then you will attract premium customers. Uh, and if let's say I have a colleague here who used to sell cars. He was a car salesman. Car salesman is seen as a low grade sales job. But again, he gave me this experience where a customer would come to him and say, "Oh, how much discount are you going to get?" And he would cut his commission to bare minimum or zero to please that customer to achieve that sale. At the end of the day, because the customer has able to bring them down in price, they've won, and the sale becomes a secondary subject. So they've lost interest in the sale. The haggling was the became their motive or their win. And if you engage in discounting, then you're devaluing your own service or your own product. People don't realize that by there are fixed prices shops all over the world. India used to be a very bad, and it used to have a culture of haggling. It has changed. India has adapted fixed price policies. Why can't Africa do the same?
Who is fixing the prices? Is that the government, the private businesses, or every individual chooses to say
No,
this is
it's
so?
it's mostly business led. Government led initiatives. I don't like bureaucratic systems. They are very inefficient. The government should not get into the business of business. They should remain in the business of governance. I don't like governments getting into business through parastatals or any other mechanism. They should govern well, and Rwanda is very well governed. It is visible in the road infrastructure, in the internet and the electricity availability. It is the mobility, ease of mobility. Everyone who comes here gets a 30-day visa, no questions asked, and no fees required. Registering a business is free of cost, and it happens in a day. These are great, visible signs of good governance. That's what they should focus on, not on fixing prices. Okay, there are some commodities that are necessary for survival. Those things, yes, but
like transport and electricity.
it is quite transport is relatively cheap, and so is electricity in Rwanda. I come from London, and London has the highest electricity price in the West. You're talking about electricity per unit costing around 40-50 pence. It's unaffordable, and that's the reason why many billionaires are leaving London and going to Dubai and Singapore and everywhere else. I'm no different. I didn't go to Singapore or Dubai. I came to Rwanda because I fell in love with Rwanda. I came here for 5 days and decided that I'll establish a business over here.
What does an African centered business model actually look like in practice if we were to achieve it? There is the Indian way of doing things, there is the Western way of doing things, there is the Arab way of doing things. What would an African centered business model look like in practice? Any examples from Rwanda or the continent that have inspired you?
Yeah, I think in the electric mobility, the model that Amazon and Espiro have adapted, I like the Espiro model far greater than any other model that is available in Kigali, and it is mainly because to reduce the barrier to entry, he has eliminated the cost of the battery. He is taking on the responsibility of the battery and the charging infrastructure, and leasing it out. The bike used to cost around 1200 USD. It now costs 750 USD. So it's nearly 500 USD less, which allows more, Boda drivers to adapt that. And his business model is based on he's making revenue from selling you the Boda, is making revenue from selling you the battery charging infrastructure, which is a subscription model as well as a pay as you go model. And but I still believe that they could improve on it. I see Boda drivers going up and down, looking for customers. This, door to door, everybody has a mobile phone. What we do in Uber in London, it's a door to door service. I press a button on my phone, and Uber knows exactly where I am. The vehicle comes, picks me up, and drops me, at my destination. That, you know the the electric bikes have a modem. They have a GPS on the batteries. They may also have a GPS on the bike, and some drivers already have a GPS on their mobile phone. So it's easy to connect the customer, and that could be another revenue model for the electric bikes. Where the driver doesn't have to look for the customer finds the driver through their phone.
Interesting. Harish, because of time, allow me to just drive you into something that you're doing. So you came from London to Rwanda, 2 days, 6 days. You're saying, I think I need to start a business here. What kind of business really interested you to start in Rwanda and why?
It's mostly around how to help businesses grow. I've seen that what helps you grow to 100,000 USD is not going to help you to reach a million USD.
It has to be different strategy.
You have to have a different operating system, and what has worked for you for 100K is not going to work for a million K, a million USD. And most African entrepreneurs get stuck at this imaginary ceilings, or if they reach 100,000, they don't know what to do, and that's a problem that is pandemic in the on the continent. That's why you see Indian and Chinese entrepreneurs coming here and thriving. Is because your local entrepreneurs are not growing, fast enough or big enough, and that's a problem that I'm trying to solve, and also um, provide mentoring so that the infant mortality rate of business is reduced. Because even if the entrepreneur doesn't appreciate me, the investors and their parents who invested in that entrepreneur will bless me.
So where you sitting in Kigali, you open up an office. Where you sitting and where do people find you for this kind of?
Yeah, I'm based in Norsken, Kigali. It's downtown. It's a big startup hub, and but uh, I'm marketing myself and sharing a lot of my content online, so on YouTube, Instagram, LinkedIn. Uh, it's not hard to find me. Just remember the name.
What's the name of the channel?
Yeah, it's B2A systems.
B2A
Systems. Yeah.
Interesting. Look out for B2A systems on Instagram, on X, and on YouTube, and you'll find out what Harish is doing in mentoring entrepreneurs around one. I'd like to appreciate you so much, Harish, for making the time to be here today. I know it's our first episode, and I'm looking forward to so many other episodes in the future where we create engaging content for entrepreneurs in Rwanda and beyond.
And it was a pleasure for me as well, Jose. Thank you.